Hi everyone, Martina again. Now that we have, if you've already watched the other video, which was just how to get the files that you've purchased from Teachers Pay Teachers into your Drive, then this is the second video. If you need that information, go back and watch the first video. If you feel totally comfortable with that, then don't worry about it, you can jump in here. In this video, I am going to walk through what the files are and what you can do with them. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. So here, this is a unit that has been downloaded and that has been added to my Google Drive. This Unit 4 Flex was one that I added directly. I just clicked Add to my Drive from Teachers Pay Teachers, and so all the files look like this. It is in my TPT purchases folder in my Drive. This folder here, this was an example of a folder that I downloaded a PDF from TPT, clicked on it, and that took me to a link in the Comprehensible Classrooms Drive, and I actually had to make a copy of all the files. So it looks a little different. The files all work the same, but they all start with copy of. You can change those file names if you want, or you can leave them alone if you don't want to deal with it in terms of time. But either way, once the files are in your Drive, no matter what they're named, no matter how they got there, they are yours and you can work with them in the same way. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to look at this Somos One Unit 04 Flex. This is one that we just added today, August 27th. So if you had pre-ordered, you can access it there. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to, here where you see name and it goes down, it's sorted right now in reverse alphabetical order, which I don't know why that always defaults to that, but it does. I'm going to switch it so that the top one, so that it is in alphabetical order, because the most important files are at the top when it is in alphabetical order. So if you watched our unboxing video, the first thing that we recommended doing was making folders for each day, because right now, gosh, you've just got a lot of files and it can be really overwhelming. So you're going to start out by making 8 folders. So I'm going to call them S1U for day 1. I'll call it Flex Day 1. And then I'm going to use my keyboard shortcuts, Command Copy, to just copy that so that I can create these really fast. And then another new folder, new folder, copy and paste, Flex Day 2. New folder, Flex Day 3. If you want to forward the video to where I'm done with this, you are totally welcome to do that. So I'm just clicking New Folder, Flex Day 4. Now, unfortunately, we can't do this for you on our end. That would be really handy. But Teachers Pay Teachers, the Add to Drive feature does not support subfolders. And that's because Google doesn't let you make copies of entire folders. It just lets you make contents of files within folders. But as you can see, it really does just take a couple minutes, and obviously a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there add up. But if you just go unit by unit with when you're going to be using these, a couple minutes on one day every 2 weeks or so, that's not so bad. So now I've got folders for each day. Alicia also creates a general folder, and if you want to, you could do that. I like to do a little underscore. See, right now, if this is in alphabetical order, this general would be listed after the day 1, day 2, and I want this to be the top, so I use a little underscore, and that'll put it in alphabetical order at the top, but you can do whatever you want. So those are my general files. So now the things that I'm going to put in the general files are unit overview, all these things that have the underscore in front of them, and those are things that are going to be used every day in the unit. If you don't want to put them in a folder, if you want to just have them loose, you can do that. You don't even have to create these folders. This is just one idea for how you can organize the files. Now I'm going to put the campanadas into folders. So these are Campanata forms. I will show you what to do with them later. I'm just going to match them by day. Campanata 2 in day 2. These notifications. Campanata 3 in day 3. Campanata 4 in day 4. Campanata 5 in day 5. Now, if you are, if you've downloaded this unit and you're like, I can't do any of this if it's saying that you don't have permission, that's because you have probably downloaded the PDF, clicked on the link to my drive, and are trying to edit my files, which you can't do. So if you're not sure how, if you need to get editing privileges, then please go back and watch that other video to see the instructions for how to get them into your drive. You'll notice that there are some extra campanatas here. I'm just going to take those 2 extra campanatas and put them in the general folder. What we find is that often teachers spend a lot more time in every unit than what is laid out in the plans because you bring in extra elements, extra activities that you enjoy. So there's just some extra campanatas in case you need them for the unit. So now I'm going to start moving these. So all of these are labeled by day. So day 1 files go in the day 1 folder. Day 2 files go in the day 2 folder. Oh my gosh, there's no day 3 files. That's okay. There are no specific files for day 3. Don't sweat it. Just skip to day 4. Day 4, I will walk through everything with you and you'll see how that works. Day 5. Day 6. Day 7. And then day 8 with the assessments. Okay, so now this folder is all beautifully organized by day. It feels much less overwhelming. And so I'm going to start by going into the general plans and showing you what you find in there. Now, in our unboxing video, Alicia's suggestions were first to organize, which we just did, then to read everything. And so the most important thing is to open this unit plans document. This is, well, you can look at the unit overview first if you want. Print this out. I would recommend printing this out. Again, in that unit plans document, we talk about how you can look at this to combine elements from between days. But open that unit plans document and just start reading everything. Click on all of the links and read the blog posts that are linked. It'll give you context. It'll be all of the training that you need to be successful with these resources. But I'm going to open the unit plans. And I'm just going to start showing you some different features that you can find within the documents. Actually, I'll backtrack. The print packet here, the print packet is intended for you to just open it up and print it out and distribute that to any of your students that don't have internet. If you print it out, when you print it out, please do not use the file print feature from your browser. You will want to use the file print feature in Google Drive. So again, right under the name of the file, go to File, and then Print Settings and Preview, or no, just Print, just File Print, and it'll print nicely for you. If you try printing from your browser, the dimensions are probably going to be weird. It's going to try to print it out in a funny way. Another thing that you could do is to do File, Download, and download it as a PDF, and then it'll be saved to your hard drive, and you can just open it from your computer and print from there. So those are 2 different ways that you can access this print file. You can also, at any point, this packet is intended to be printed out and shared within one big packet with those students, but you can use this for anybody. So if there's any resource that's in here that you want to use for your students in class or for your virtual students, you are totally welcome to do that. If there's a single resource in here that you see and you're like, man, I want to just pull that one resource out, It's really easy to do that. Again, you're going to want to do that from Google Drive. So when it is in Google Drive, you can do it from a PDF viewing software, but I'm not going to show you that. If you see, for example, if you see this reading and you're like, oh man, I want my students to read this story. I want to send this to my virtual students, but I don't have a copy of this anywhere else. What you can do is File, Make a copy of selected slides. So I selected the slide in the viewer. You can select multiple slides if you want. Maybe I'll do that just for fun. So I'll actually do these two. I'll do La Presidenta and Un Cuento Incompleto. So I'll say I want my students to complete this virtually. So I'm going to select both of them in the Finder. I just did that by holding down the Shift button. File, Make a copy, Selected slides, and I'm going to call this La Presidenta and Un Cuento Incompleto. If you want, you could follow the same format of all the other resources. This is day 3. So I might say Somos 1 Unit 4, day 3. And then right now, when I create this, it's going to put it in the Somos 1 Flex general folder. But if I don't want it there, if I'm like, oh, I want to assign this to my students on day 3, then I can click on this folder. I can use this arrow to navigate back and go to day 3. Remember, there were no specific files there. Click on the little arrow. And then whenever you're in the place that you finally want it to end up, just click Select. So now I can see this new file is going to be filed away in Somos 1 Unit 4 Flex day 3. And it makes a new copy. And in this copy, there are only these 2 pages. Just these 2 pages. So I can send it to my students just like this. If I just want this as a PDF on my computer, no problem. I can do File, Download as PDF document, and then you could send it to your students as a PDF if you'd like. If you use some kind of a PDF software to overlay text boxes and images and have your students edit it, that would be another way for you to get a PDF from just this file. It could be with 1 page or 2 pages or however many pages you want pulled from another thing. Another thing that you might want to do with it is, one thing we found is that when students are doing virtual assignments, I can't remember if Megan Lovelace or Courtney Jackson taught me this, but if you wanted students to interact with this, like if you want them to drag and drop words or to fill in the blanks, right now this whole thing is editable and it's going to be really hard for students to work with because when they click on here, they could click on anything and it'll be changing the stuff that you don't want to get changed. So one thing that we do is we will click File. So right now I'm going to click on the page that I would like to make into a digital assignment. So right now, let's see if I want students to be able to answer these questions. Right now, they could totally just type in here, but it'll, shift all the text and the text box will get too big. I don't want them to mess with what's already on here. So what I'm going to do is click File. Oh gosh, I just realized that there's a little problem here. File. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm going through this slowly enough. I clicked on this. This is selected in the viewfinder on the side. File, Download as JPEG, current slide. So now this is going to create an image of the current slide. So I just created an image of the current slide. Then I'm going to do something crazy. I am going to delete everything on this page. So I just highlighted it all. I just used my cursor, holding it down to drag and highlight everything. And I'm just going to click the delete button on my keyboard. Oh, I just deleted the whole thing. Now, have no fear, I'm going to click on background. If you don't see this menu up here, you can go to slide and then change background. So that's the long cut and this is the shortcut. So I'll do slide, change background, choose image. I'm going to, because I just downloaded it as a JPEG, it downloaded it to my computer. So I'm going to do browse. I went to my downloads. Did it go to my downloads? Where did that go? Oh, there it was. So this was the download. And then click done. Now you'll see this looks exactly the same. It's a little bit blurrier. That always happens when you do the JPEG thing. But if I try to click on it, nothing happens. It's all locked into the background because it's an image, not actually movable pieces. So then what you can do is you can go in and add text boxes for where you want students to complete tasks. So if you want them to be able to type their name in, I just clicked the text box icon. I'm adding this here. I like to do a little, I like to do a fill. So if you go to the fill tool here, fill in the text box so that students can see that that's something that they need to interact with. I think Jody Kraft taught me that tip. You can change the font if you want to. I always like to write type here, but I do it with a single word because then it's easier for students to highlight it and delete it. So these text boxes, you don't have to even write type here. You can just have them there, but just put a text box, and I'm using my keyboard shortcuts to do this really quickly. So anywhere you want students to be able to type. Again, keyboard shortcuts, if you don't know, are Command C for copy on a Mac, and then Command V. The long way to do it is to have this text box highlighted and do edit, copy, and then edit, paste. Oh gosh, that's so annoying. This keeps telling me that I need to get keyboard shortcuts. I already have them, and I love them. So now you could send this to your students. Now, this is one of those situations where I can't tell you how to send it to your students because that is going to depend on your learning management system. So it might be as simple as uploading this file to your Google Classroom or your Schoology or your Canvas or whatever it is. It might be that you need to do file, download as a Microsoft PowerPoint if you use Microsoft Teams, and then upload that PowerPoint to your Microsoft Teams platform. It might be that if you don't have a learning management system that automatically makes a copy of files for students when you upload them, you can manipulate this URL. So where it says edit up here, you're going to look for the word edit and you're going to delete everything after that and write copy, and then highlight the whole URL, copy that, and you can send that to your students. I'm not going to walk you through this. That is something that the Comprehensible Classroom team is not here to help you with. That's all technology related stuff. But if any of that sounds like, oh, that's something I need to learn how to do, reach out to the IT person at your district or connect with someone like Rachel Lucas in the Technology for World Languages Teachers Group. She's amazing and can help get you connected with resources. Another way that you can do this, again, if I want to work with this worksheet, if I want to make this a digital worksheet, I start by doing File, Download as a JPEG. That'll download that as an image. I'm going to highlight all of this and delete it. Background, choose image, browse. The second file, it's uploading. Done. Now in this one, you're supposed to fill in the blanks. So there's two ways that you could do this. Again, I always try to use copy paste. So I've already got text boxes over here. So I'm going to click on this text box, do Command C to copy it. Actually, I'll do for both of them. Oh, my computer's freezing. Okay, so I'm going to click on both of these text boxes. So I'm just holding down the Shift button to highlight both of them, and then Command C. Then I click on the other page, Command V. Wait for my computer. And then I'm just going to copy this one. And you could, in this case, just put text boxes over each little word. However, what I find is that it's really hard to do that and not cover up the text. So what would be even easier is if you put a text box over each one of these words and you just type in the word Decidio. And I'm a little bit crazy about formatting, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to center it. You don't have to do this. I shouldn't be showing you this because I don't want you to stress out. But now you're just going to copy and paste, create one for each of these words. And now students can just oops, that was misspelled. Can just click on these and then use the navigation tool to drag them down into the right spaces. And then if it covers up the text a little bit, it's fine. So that's another tool. Another thing that's helpful is if you insert a text box over here with instructions for your students in the margins. Sorry, instructions. Drag the words from the word bank into the blanks in the story. Then I'm going to tell them use insert. Let's see what it is. Insert image, search the web. So they're going to use insert image, search the web, insert image, search the web to find images that illustrate the story. So kids can do insert when they have their own copy of this file, insert image, search the web. They can search for images, dinosaur, because Mauricio is a T-Rex. Ooh, perfect. Okay, here's a T-Rex. And then they can resize it. They can put it here. Oh, I'm doing the wrong story. Let's see, unicorn. And Billy is not already a unicorn. Billy wants to be a unicorn, so maybe I want a thought bubble. So this is like someone who's dreaming of being a unicorn. So I'm going to put this, whatever. So students can do whatever they want. So that's how students would use it. You don't do that for them. That's the instructions you give them, and then they use this tool like this to complete the activity. So again, once you've got this all done, you send it to your students. Whew, that was a long time talking about one little resource. So again, that is just one way that you can use these resources flexibly. So for that, I saw something in the print packet that I didn't already have as a standalone file. I wanted to create a standalone file for my students to be able to send it to them to complete virtually instead of just printing it out. So I made a copy of these slides from the print packet, and then I downloaded each of the slides as JPEGs to make a locked background, added digital editable elements to it to be able to send to my students. You don't have to do any of that, okay? So don't be stressed out. That's just one way you can use these resources. So now, again, the same thing goes if there's something in the unit plans that you want to work with, that you want to send to your students and you can't find it as a standalone activity anywhere, go ahead and do the same thing. If you want to send your students a self-check or an answer key so that they can check answers for themselves, one thing you'll notice is that in the first units, we were adding a lot of self-check forms to the files, but there's actually a file number limit for Teachers Pay Teachers with the Add to Drive features. We can only include 30 files in the units. So now that we're adding assessments, we can't add those self-checks. But it's not a problem, because if you ever want to send a self-check to your students, again, just click on the answer key in your unit plans. In the viewfinder, click File, make a copy, selected slides. This is almost 1 unit 4 flex. This is day 1, comprendes, self-check. You can name it whatever you want. So I'm going to file this. I'm going to click on the folder. I don't want it in my general folder. You can have it wherever you want. I'm going to click on Flex Day 1, and I'm going to file this self-check in here because I want to be able to send that to my students. So now I've got a standalone file to send to my students. So again, just to show you that all of these resources can be parsed out. If you see something in one of the big general files that you want to send to your students as an individual thing, you can do that. If it's not already set up as a digital assignment, you can make it into a digital assignment. These files are yours to work with, to use as you need to in your own, with your own students. So in terms of the unit slides, some of the files in here, there's just a couple in each unit that are intended for you to edit. So on day 3 of every unit, before class on day 3, you're going to need to go in and you're going to need to enter a story. You're going to need to type in a story. It'll probably be a story that you created with your students on day 2. But if you either didn't do that or don't want to deal with typing it all out, you could always grab text from one of the stories that's already in here. So for example, here, you can highlight all this text. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcuts to do Command C, and then I'm going to pop it in here. Highlight all of this to get rid of it, and then I'm going to do edit, paste without formatting, which sounds confusing because when you paste it without formatting, it just is formatted. It just adopts the formatting of whatever text is already there. Oh my gosh. This keeps prompting me to do this installation. I don't want to deal with it right now. That's okay. There's a keyboard shortcut for that too. So the only problem is that you'll see there are, whenever there was a return, like whenever I had clicked enter, and the other thing, I've just got to delete all those extra spaces. So that'll just take me a second. Again, these are intended for you to type in your class story. So you wouldn't have to do this, you would be typing in your class story. But if you don't want to work with your own story, you can do this. Do 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 do. Okay. If you want to get rid of this because it's going to be in your way, you can just delete that. If you want to pop in a title, you can pop in a title. Again, you're working with your own. If you can edit it, that means it's your own copy. You cannot edit. You don't have permission. You don't have the capability to edit files from me. So don't ever worry about it. If you have the ability to edit it, then it's your own copy. You can edit it however you want for your students. For this activity, if you read the instructions for beep on day 3 of some of the lessons, The instructions are here. You'll see that you need to create 2 versions. So you'll have one story, and then you're just going to copy, highlight all of it, copy it, and paste it into the following page, into the P for profesor. This is your version. And then you're supposed to change at least 10 details. So I might say, Billy quiere ser robot instead of unicorn. Takes a class about la historia de los robots. So I might change this all throughout. So you're supposed to just change some details in the story as you go through. And so you can do that because everything is editable. In the unit plans, I don't think there's anything else specifically that I wanted to show you. So let's go to, again, we're just thinking about how to different things that you can do with these files. Let's look at the unit slideshow because we got some questions about that. So in the unit slideshow, if you would like, you can download the whole thing as a PDF or as a PowerPoint. You can just click File, download as PDF, or download as PowerPoint. If you want to use this, but you don't want to run it out of your web browser. If for whatever reason you want to send your kids a picture of one of the slides, for example, on day 3, it says to type the class story here before class. So if you typed out the story, once upon a time there was a person. They were awesome. The end. I'm going to call it the person. So now if you have this story, and on the day 3 lesson plans, it says to download it as a JPEG and send it to your students, you can do that. Just click File, Download as JPEG. Then you can send that image to your students, and it tells them that their task for that day is to record themselves translating it out loud. Again, when it comes to technology, don't ask us questions because we're not going to be able to give you the best answers to your questions. Connect with a technology person. So if you don't know how to have your students record themselves, that is going to depend on the learning management system that you use. A lot of learning management systems actually have voice recording tools within them, and so you'll want to use those. Other teachers prefer to use things like Flipgrid to do student voice recording. So that's going to depend on your context. And again, contact someone in IT or reach out to Rachel Lucas in the Technology for World Language Educators Facebook group for some ideas that other teachers use to record voices. Another thing that you can do in this slideshow is all of the Campanata slides are set up to be interactive slides. But you probably, if you want to use them in this way, you don't want to send your students your entire unit slideshow. So you're going to want to parse out these slides. So if you're using this in the classroom, you can just do view, present the slideshow. It's projected on your whiteboard. The Campanata, which is the warm-up, is projected at the beginning of class. Students read the prompt and they complete the task on a piece of paper. But if you have virtual students and you want to send them the Campanatas in this way, do File. So click on the slide you want to send to them. File, make a copy. Actually, I should probably, let's see, this is Campanata 3. File, they aren't numbered, so you'll just kind of have to count through. File, make a copy of selected slides, and I'm going to call this Somos 1, Unit 4, Day 3. Campanata slide. I'm going to click on my folder. I'm going to go back. I'm going to look for my day 3 folder. And I'm going to file it away there. Click OK. Now I have a file, a single slide that I can send to my students for them to be able to interact with. So here it says, place the red cancel symbol over the number of the statement that does not appear in the story. So students read this whole story and then they figure out which statement is not in the story and they just drag this cancel symbol over it. Does he receive an F? Does he take a biology class? Does he speak Chinese? Does he want to be a dentist? Justin does not speak Chinese. Okay, and it doesn't tell students to do this, but like right here, it actually says Justin no habla chino. So I could highlight it. Could use the highlighter tool to show that that statement is false. It doesn't tell students to do that, but you could add that to the instructions if you wanted. You won't send it to students like this because it's already completed. That's just how students would do it when they have their copy. So you can just make a new copy of the slide and then send it to your students so that they can complete it in this way by dragging the symbols around. So another thing that you might want to do with the unit slideshow, if you are using Zoom virtual backgrounds, if you want to use any one of these slides and make it your virtual background in Zoom so that it's behind you. If, for example, in the Unit 4 slideshow, we're talking about El Silbo Gomero. And if you see this and you're like, ooh, I want this to be my virtual background, do File, Download as a JPEG. And then once you have it as a JPEG, as an image, you can upload that to Zoom as your virtual background. Again, we are not the best resource to connect with about how to create virtual backgrounds, although we did do a fun club. Actually, no, we didn't do a fun club about that. We did a fun club about using virtual backgrounds, but not creating them. For that, reach out to Zoom support or connect with a technology-focused group for those technology-focused questions. So we're giving you the tools that you can use, but then if you aren't exactly sure how those tools work in terms of technology, you'll need to connect with a technology resource because that's going to depend on so many different hardware and software factors. So the great thing about this, though, is that all of these slides in the Silbo Gomero slideshow, I actually already created JPEGs that are in the unit for you. So sometimes with units, you'll find those. If I include an activity in the unit that I think teachers are going to want to use, that most teachers are going to want to use as virtual backgrounds, I did that work for you because I have a handy dandy trick for making many JPEGs from a PDF at once. I'll show that to you, not today. I could show it to you another time though. It's a very tricky trick though. So if I go to my unit plans document, I'm just going to show you where it's referring to that. So that was a day 6 lesson plan still. Day 6 lesson plans. Day 6 lesson plans, still loading because there's so many days. Still going, still going. I think we're there. Here we are. Okay. On the day 6 lesson plans, you will see that it says picture talk it, and here it says, like in the hybrid model, it says picture talk the Silbo Gomero slideshow. You can either share your screen while you're projecting the slideshow, or it says use the slide images. And if you click on that, it'll take you to a folder that already has the images broken out for you. And then you can just download all of those. And you can actually click this download on this little triangle next to it if you want to download all of them at once. Just click the little arrow and then download, and it'll download them as a zip file. And then you can unzip it and you'll have all the images ready to go to use in Zoom. So really important that you read and click all of these links to see all the different resources that we've created for you. Now, one thing in the first units that we were putting out, we did not include assessments just because we hadn't had time to wrap our mind around it. In all of the units that we are putting out now, and then we're also going to go back in and put them in units 2+ of every level, you'll see assessments. In one case, the assessment, there's a separate document for the assessment instructions, but moving forward, they will always be in this unit plan. So you get to day 7, and after day 7, there still is another day. So day 8 is assessment. So we're going to need to add that to the unit overview, I just realized. So day 8 is assessment. Please read through these thoughts, this thinking about assessments. It's really important because when you see this assessment, you're going to be like, that's it. And this explains why. So this first page explains why, and then this will explain the fairly complicated ways. No, it's not complicated, but I've been learning, Alicia Cardenas came up for the model for this assessment in talking with, or in looking at resources, mostly from Bill Langley and Anne-Marie Chase. And Anne-Marie Chase really did a lot with this. So this is an example of a listening assessment. What we have done is we have included 3 different versions of the assessment. And I'm not going to, I'll make another video actually talking about the assessment, what it is, and yeah, about what the assessment is and why it is that way. But what you will find is that there are 3 different versions of it. And that is so that your students can't just be texting each other and saying, like, as you're administering the assessment, so texting each other and saying, like, question 1 is false, question 1 is true. If you split your class into 3 groups of students and send one version of the assessment to each group of students, then students won't necessarily know if they have the same version of the assessment, or if they're talking with their friends might have a different version. So it'll be, cheating is never, it's never going to be impossible for you to stop cheating when it happens in virtual spaces, but it'll make it a little bit harder. And because these assessments are so easy, the incentive for students to cheat is very low. But what you will need to do with these is you'll need to use that trick to create a copy of the assessment. If you want students to complete the assessment like this on a document, then you will need to do File, make a copy of selected slide, and I'm going to call this Somos 1 Unit 4, however you say that word, SCIAN assessment. And I'm going to put that in the day 8 folder. And then there's 2 ways you can do this. Right now, I don't think it really is a big deal at all. This part all over here, this is all editable. So yes, students can click on it. What they need to be able to do is use the fill tool to click on the true or the false. So they click on it, and then they use the fill tool to fill in the answer that they think is correct. If you're like, you know what, I really don't want them messing with any of this, then I'm just going to undo that real quick. I'm going to highlight everything else. So you see I'm doing this by just staying on this side of the page. So I'm not going anywhere near those true false buttons, but this is going to pick up everything else on the page. Oh, actually, you know what? I just did that the wrong way. I am going to click on all, I'm going to make a copy of it first. First, make a copy of your slides. So do File or Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. I'm just going to use my keyboard shortcuts, Command Copy, Command Paste. Now I've got 2 identical slides. This one I'm going to mess with. So I'm going to click on the trues and falses. So I'm just holding down the Shift button as I click on each one of them. And then I'm going to File, Download as a JPEG. Then I'm going to highlight everything on the page, delete it, background, choose image, browse, find the JPEG on my computer, click OK, upload it, done. So now this is like a locked JPEG. And now I can go back over here. Actually, if I was smart, I would have copied it when I had them all highlighted earlier. I'm going to highlight all of those, Command copy, so Command C, and then Command V. And now those are the only elements on this page that are editable. So if you want to do that, you can. I didn't think it was a big deal that students can move around these pieces. I think as long as these are on the top, it's fine. So then you can send this to your students. So that's another way that you will want to use the flexibility of the assessments. However, this is the last thing I'm going to show you guys. Both the assessments and the Campanadas all have self-grading forms that are provided in the unit already. So if I go to, let's look at day 3, because we were just messing with that. So I did create a slide for Campanada day 3. Maybe you want to send it to your students for them to complete on the slide. Oops, I forgot to undo the things that I messed with on it. So they already have the answers. So you might want to send it to your students that way. Or something that'll be much easier for you is clicking on this file here, the form. Very important whenever you have a form, you never want to share it with your students. You always want to send it. If you share it, they're going to have the ability to edit your form. They're going to mess around with this. They won't be able to like fill it in. They'll be changing the form itself. So do not use the 3 little buttons with share. You need to do send. So click on send, and that will give you a link. And then you can copy that link and you can send it to your students or upload it to your learning management system. And then when they open that link, they'll be typing in their responses, and all the responses will be gathered for you here. Now, one thing that you might notice is that when you're previewing these, I'm glad that this was one of them. It says, which sentence doesn't appear in the story? And you're like, there is no story. Well, you can't see everything on this editing side that people can see on the viewing side. So if I do the send, and let's see, I've still got the link copied. This is what students are going to see when they open it up. So you've sent them the link, they open it up, and you see it's not beautiful, but the story's all written out right here. So this is just a really easy way that they can do it. Let's see, so if I say my name is Martina B, and I say which sentence does not appear in the story, this one does not, submit. Yay, I can view my accuracy, so they can have their answer right away. And I can see that it was correct. As a teacher, I can see that I got 1 response to my form. And I can view my responses either by in this way, or I can open a spreadsheet to see them all at once. So the same thing goes for assessments. We have created forms versions of all the assessments. Again, we've got 3 different versions of the assessment so that you can split your students into 3 groups and send 1 version of the assessment to each different group of students to kind of minimize the easiness or maximize the difficulty of cheating. So again, when you click on this assessment in the day 8 folder that you filed away, and you created those folders, you click on you're going to notice a couple things. So first, this is split into 2 sections. So students are going to need a password. The password is in the assessment instructions. It's right above the teacher script. So you'll need to tell them the password, but you can also just check the form here. If you click on the, what is the password? You can see what it is. It's pencil. So if you click send, grab the link, send the link to your students. When your students open it, they'll see this first page. So I'll say Martina B. And if I put in the wrong password, if I say tree, oops, try again. And then I put in the correct password. Now I've got a quiz. So what your students will be doing for this assessment, and again, I'll make a separate video about the assessment. They will be listening. They'll have this pulled up on their computer while they are listening to you read a story, and they'll just be answering these questions, these true false questions about the story as they go. When they're done, they submit it, and they can immediately see their score. Oh, I got 3 out of 5. So if you want to change that, if you don't want your students to see their scores, which you may not, especially if you're giving this to multiple classes. Again, there's 3 different versions, so that does help a little bit. You can go to the little settings icon, go to quizzes, and you can see release grade. You can see respondents can see missed questions, correct answers, point values. You can uncheck those, and then students won't be able to see that information when you send it to them. Click save. So now when I go to responses, I can see the best way to look at this is to create a spreadsheet. This is going to be the easiest way for you to look at your students. So you'll see my answer was only recorded when I got the password correct. And then you can see all of my answers here. If I go here, go by individual, I can see the score, 3 of 5 points for me. Again, there's a lot of technology tricks you can use to get the grade in this spreadsheet. You can also even do a trick where you have 3 versions of the assessments, but you can actually pull all of that data into the same spreadsheet. But for help with all of those things, connect with other people. We are not your technology people. So we're just giving you the tools or the resources, and then you've got to some extent figure out how to use the technology with the support of the people in your life that are specifically purposed for that. So I think that is all the things that I needed to show you guys about different ways to use the materials. If you have more questions, please send them to us. And what we're doing is we're kind of deciding what tutorials and videos to create based on the questions that we're seeing most often. And we will redirect you to other resources if they are questions that are really specific about how to use technology tools. But if they're related to how to use our resources and how to make them work for your context, then we are super happy to help you with that. Have a great day, guys.